Is it possible, or is it more likely, that women are more spiritual than men? Hi, this is Barry Phillips with 10-Minute Torah, day number 5, the final day of the Torah portion of Vayakol, and we're going into the final chapter of this portion, chapter number 38 of Shemot, or Exodus. Let's read verse number 8. Continuing now in the work that Bezalel is accomplishing, it says, "And he made the basin of bronze and its stand of bronze from the bronze mirrors of the serving women who did service at the door of the tent of appointment." So we're talking about the bronze laver. This is the means by which the priesthood would come and wash their hands and their feet. And in most of our imaginations, perhaps we think of a large basin, a large wash tub or wash basin of some sort on a pedestal. Maybe we could think of a gigantic, large bird bath style structure. The rabbinical mind has more of an elaborate cistern design with spigots on it that they could wash their hands and then water would flow down to the feet. However it was designed, the source of the metal for it was taken from mirrors, shiny metal bronze mirrors that a particular group of women had. Now this is before the days of mirrored glass, so women would use shiny metals such as brass to reflect themselves and aid in the application of cosmetics and fixing their hair, etc. These particular women are those who serve at the door of the tent of meeting. There is a special drawing of the feminine heart to the presence of the Most High. Now, at the beginning, I asked the question, is it possible or even probable that women are more spiritual than men? It's not necessarily by design, but it happens to be, in my personal experience and practice. When Laura and I have pastored a multitude of churches, several churches across the state of Virginia, it was observed many times, I'll put it that way, that there were women who would come and worship and their husbands would stay home. Oftentimes we saw it was the women folk who brought the children to church with them. And it was the women who modeled worship and prayer and giving, etc. And daddy and the husband stayed home. Now you might see the man of the house on occasion for a special event, if their child was involved in a play or for Easter back in those days. Even now in the Hebraic roots community, you will still see that it's a lot of times it's women who have taken on the role of a spiritual leader in the home. Thankfully, I'm seeing much more the case of men stepping up to a role of modeling and leading and exemplifying what it means for a man to dance. Some men are so bold, they will actually get up and they will dance before Yah. You can't find anyone more manly, I suppose, than King David, and he certainly danced. They raise their hands, they worship, they sing, they praise, they study, they share. Thankfully, men are beginning to make a comeback. But for generations, it was the women folk. And they are to be applauded and acknowledged and praised for the fact that it was mama, oftentimes, that held the family together through her prayers and her intercessions. Many years ago, when involved in youth camp situations here in the mountains of Virginia, in the middle of the state, we would lead teens on a bit of a hike up into the woods. And among other things, we were saying, beware of timber rattlers. If it's dry, they're out. They're looking for water. And if you see a bear cub, Be very, very careful. Be very, very still and quiet. And do not, under any circumstances, try to get close to that bear cub. Because if you get between mama bear and her cub, you will be shredded in no uncertain terms and attacked. And so we had to keep our eyes open for that cute, cuddly little black bear roaming through the woods. You don't want to get between a praying mama or a praying wife and the target of her prayers, her husband and her children in particular. She will pray annihilation upon you, and you don't want to mess with them. Now, it has been a model then that women yearn for the presence of Yah and a means and in a manner that men may probably not understand. If you take the guided tunnel tour, and I highly recommend that if you go to Israel, you want Hanok Young to lead you on this tour. And he will take you down to the depths at the foundation of what is known as the Western Wall and lead you into a journey further and deeper back. And there is a little place, a little hollowed out area, a little alcove, and there are women there on a regular basis, a daily basis, sitting in chairs or leaned up against the walls here, and they're very quietly reading Psalms and praying. What are they doing? It is known that this particular spot is the closest spot available on the face of the earth to the Kadosh Kedoshim, to the Holy of Holies. And these women regularly, faithfully, avail themselves to get as close to Him as they possibly can and seek His face. Who knows the number of attacks on Israel, the number of threats against Israel that have been thwarted because of the prayers and the intercessions of these particular women. In the book of Samuel, 1 Samuel, chapter number 2, there is a story here pertaining to the priest sons of Eli, Hophni and Pinchas. And it says that they were abusing the women who were assembling at the door of the tent of appointment. Again, they were there to serve, to pray, to intercede. And abusive priests were taking advantage of them. Kind of reminds me of the abusive shepherds that the prophet Jeremiah and the prophet Ezekiel talked about. We read in the book of Psalms, chapter number 68, verses 12 and 13. 11 and 12. Yahweh gave the word. The women who proclaimed it was a great company. It's the word Tz'va'ot, host, an army. This is the word that is also used in our Torah portion, that the women who were assembled there, they were referred to as a Tz'va'ot, a host, an army. And it says, sovereigns of armies flee in haste, and she who remains at home divides the spoil. These women are militaristic in their prayers. They are aggressive in their prayers because they have no one else perhaps to turn to but to the Most High. And so they plead before Him with all of their being, and He sees them as a great functioning army. Perhaps then this should be a picture of the bride of Messiah at our day, taking on that feminine quality of being a host, seeking to find the door of the Most High, knocking on it, and not letting go of the petitions and requests until they're answered. And when they're answered, we divide the spoil of even the kings of the earth. Shabbat Shalom to all of you. I so much appreciate you watching 10 Minute Torah, leaving your comments, for offering of your prayers and intercessions for us. For those who support, thank you so much. It's deeply appreciated. We very much look forward to seeing you again next week. Until then, Shabbat Shalom.